Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host Scotty McCoy, and I have an alumni from A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. She is a final girl in both of them. That is a rarity. I have Lisa Wilcox, and she played Alice Johnson. Hi, Lisa. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you, Scotty.
No problem. I'm so glad to have you on. I am a big Alice Johnson fan and a big Lisa Wilcox fan.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you so
No
much.
problem. So the first question I have is not related to A Nightmare on Elm Street, but how did you get your start into acting?
It was a complete accident. It really, really was. My family had moved to California for my dad's job, and so I finished high school in Irvine, and a friend asked me, someone I had met had an audition down at a theater in Newport Beach, by the Epson's Theater, and said, "Oh, you want to come along?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So I went, and I literally was just sitting in the audience watching the auditions happen at this for this equity waiver play, and the producer comes up to me and is tapping my shoulder, and she's saying, "You're auditioning, right?" I'm like, "Oh, no. I'm just here with my friend." Anyway, she was very persistent, and ultimately I did audition, and I got the lead role in a Lanford Wilson play called The Hot L Baltimore. So
Awesome.
that is, and then I started doing plays and, just theater, tons of plays one after the other. Finished high school, went to UCLA. And there you
Awesome.
go.
That's awesome. What was your audition like for A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master?
Well, it was amazing. I even got an audition because they wouldn't see me. My manager was like, "I submitted you for this role in Nightmare on Elm Street." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I love Nightmare on Elm Street." And he's like, "But they won't see you." And my headshot, I looked nothing like what they pictured, Alice Johnson to look like.
Right.
I mean, back then it was the 80s. I had this platinum blonde hair and the 80s makeup and all of that stuff. I looked like a cheerleader, not like Alice, how you would picture Alice Johnson.
Right.
But they couldn't find their Alice. So Annette Benson is the one who tells me this story, that they auditioned like over 700 actresses.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
they
crazy.
couldn't find their Alice. So finally, so they went to their reject pile, and I finally had the opportunity to audition. So I
Awesome.
did, and I went with like dirty hair and no makeup, and I wore my worst color, which is pale yellow, and I loved the sculpt and whatnot. And anyway, there you go. It became history.
Awesome. So obviously you returned for A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. So how were you approached to return? Like, how did they sell it to you to come back for another movie in the franchise?
They really just they well, the number 4 had done so very well and at the box office and whatnot, and they had Stephen Hopkins to be the director for Nightmare 5. So they called and said, "Hey, would you have lunch with the director and consider doing Nightmare 5?" And so we had lunch, and we were all good to go. So
Awesome.
there you go. Yeah.
Awesome. So what was Rennie Harlan like as a director? Because we know he directed Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Of course, yes. Rennie was great. He was what I would call an actor's director.
Right.
He really enjoyed collaborating with us
Okay.
and was open to suggestions. So yeah, he was just a pleasure.
Awesome. And then what about
Pleasure.
Stephen Hopkins? How was he as a director for Part 5?
He was, I would say, more of a technical director.
Okay.
He is an amazing artist.
Hmm.
So he did the storyboard for the movie, like
Okay.
himself,
Oh, wow.
and he was really into the set production. So that was really more of his, the way he worked.
Awesome.
So
So, for both of the movies, what was your most memorable moment while filming them?
for both of them, gosh, I really love the scene in Nightmare 4 when I smash the bowl in front of Dad.
Right.
Go into Daydream World and then smash it. It's just a very powerful scene
Yes.
for me that I remember. And Nightmare 5, I love the scenes in the hospital when I'm meeting Jacob for the first time when he comes into my room.
Nice.
So just off the top of my head, that's what pops into my head.
Awesome. Basically the same question, or similar question, about both films, but what was the best part about filming them both, and what was the worst?
Say that again?
What was the best part about filming both of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and what was the worst?
Well, I think I touched on kind of the best. I mean, the best too is honestly the cast of the cast of Nightmare 5 ended up kind of being all spread out except for Kelly Jo Minter.
Right.
But the cast of Nightmare 4, we have all stayed great friends through all these years. So that is the best part.
Awesome.
Okay, honestly. The worst part would have to be getting my hair, a rinse put on my hair every morning for the I have virgin blonde hair, and we did a test shoot, and they're like, hey, Lisa, would you dye your hair, red or, brown, whatever? Right. And I said, I don't know if I want to dye it, but you can rinse it. I may as well have dyed it, because after 10 weeks of having that stuff put on blonde hair, right. Think of throwing red paint on a white wall. Okay, it stained my hair. But it's fine, it's all worth it. But the worst part, honestly, was getting that rinse put on, because it's very wet, and then right. I had 2 blow dryers to dry my hair, and then the director is calling, a rehearsal, and I'm right. like this drowned rat. So that was the worst part of it, was that technical part of getting my hair dyed.
Right. What was it like working with Robert Englund?
Oh, he's great. He's just wonderful. Very giving actor.
Awesome.
Just down to earth. He's just terrific.
Awesome. I heard a lot of good things about him from fans, from people that I did interview for A Nightmare on Elm Street, and nobody had nothing bad or negative to say about him.
No, there's nothing. No, he's to us, he's Uncle Robert.
Awesome. So here is a hot seat question. If you could choose, which movie did you enjoy filming the most? Also, if you could choose, which movie do you enjoy watching the most as both a professional actor and as a fan?
I probably enjoyed Nightmare 5, filming 5 the most, only because I didn't have to have a rinse put on my hair during that one. I had a lot of, there were really some awesome scenes and, leading the show kind of
right.
thing, But to watch, I would say Nightmare 4. Mm-hmm. I just love the gags, and it is. This may sound weird, but I really enjoy watching the character arc of Alice Johnson.
It really was a good character arc.
She goes from introverted to this big badass, and I kind of believe it.
Right, exactly.
It's like you put yourself aside, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's not me, it's the character, so.
Right. A funny story before I go into the last question. I remember the first time I was watching A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and it's that loop scene where you're in that dream sequence, and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm watching it on my DVD, and I'm wondering, and so that scene happens, and it happens again. I'm like, I wonder if my DVD skipped. And then it happened again, and I'm like, okay, something's going on here, right? So then it keeps going on. I'm like, what's going on? It's like my DVD possessed or something. And then next thing you know, they say some new dialogue. I'm like, oh, that was actually part of the movie.
Yeah, that is honestly, Robert Englund has said at many panels that is his favorite scene. It is by far his favorite scene. No, the whole franchise.
I reached out to interview him, but he's like so busy, so heavily busy. It'd probably be better reaching out to him now with everything going on. But he's just doing convention after convention after convention, and he's just so heavily busy that he declined me because of that reason. But I always wanted to tell him that story because I knew he would get a kick out of that.
Yeah, well, he'd be right in cahoots with you. That's his favorite scene. So, yeah.
Awesome. So the last question I got for you is, do you have any projects in the works or anything else you would like to promote to our listeners?
Yes, I have a movie called Bloody Man, and Tuesday Night is actually in it as well.
Awesome.
We don't have any scenes together, but we are in the same movie. And then I have a film called Mystery Spot that I filmed in Hempstead, Texas last fall, that I'm very excited about. Very, just a great story, a great role. That's coming up. And then I'm actually doing a virtual convention for Wizard World. Yes, a virtual convention.
Nice.
They've already done one for Supernatural. They did one with the cast of Once Upon a Time.
Nice.
And they're doing, I think it's going to be about 9 of us in Nightmare on Elm Street. They just moved the date now to April 23rd, so yeah, keep your eyes posted for that.
Nice, that's so awesome. I interviewed Ira Hayden from Nightmare 3, was it last week? And I remember him mentioning the Wizard World convention. I believe he was going to be there, if I'm not mistaken. So I knew it sounded familiar, but that would be great. So it's good to know that you're also going to be there, so we know that Ira Hayden fans can tune in to see him, and now we know that Lisa Wilcox fans can go and tune in to see her.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome.
It works quite. I've watched the Supernatural one just to kind of get my brain wrapped around
Right,
what.
right.
But it ran very smoothly, and of course, it's never going to replace, a tangible, real convention.
Right.
But it's for now, it's the best we can do.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad we got to reschedule. I know we were set for last week? And something came up, so I'm glad that we were able to reschedule.
My friend that I'm staying with broke her foot.
Wow, over all the rotten luck, right?
Yeah, and then today, the gal who's coming to help her take a shower and stuff came in. It was supposed to, we thought at 10, turned out to be 1, so I was dealing with that, so I apologize for my tardiness.
No, it's perfectly fine. I'm so glad that we were still able to have it, and I'm just grateful. I'm a huge fan of yours, so this is like a dream come true for me.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
No problem. Well, you have a nice rest of your day, and you stay safe.
All right, you too.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Wash your hands.
Yes, definitely will.
Okay.
Yep,
Bye.
bye.